All right. Hi, everybody. This is Matthew Poes of Poes Acoustics, and I was just reading the question on the wavelets are the future to home theater calibration. Sorry, my wife sensationalizes my titles sometimes. I got a 10 Canadian dollar, I believe that's what that is, donation or money from Veovius. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Veovius. Thanks for your videos. I'm trying to sort out bass in my very budget multi-purpose basement, 7.x.4 HD. I have one couch, and I only have only two of the seats that I care about. I have one free 15 amp circuit. I don't have a lot of money, but I would like a flat curve as low as possible. Is it feasible to get a flat response using only near-field, very near-field subwoofers, i.e. instead of placing 2 to 4 subs around the room in a typical corner or mid-wall placement, could I just use 1 or 2 very large seal drivers directly behind the couch? Noise in the other floors is not a concern, and I would like to get into the low 10 hertz range if possible. All right, so the first thing I need to say is I think that there remains confusion. I think because people may be saying this in the forums, that near-field subs means you're listening to the bass in the near field and you don't get the room interaction, therefore you get flatter bass. That is incorrect. Your proximity to the subwoofer is completely irrelevant to whether you're in the near field. At low frequencies, there is no near field like that. The bass wavelengths are so large relative to the room's dimensions that the bass will always be reflecting off of the walls and interacting with its own direct sound and other reflections by the time you hear it. So it doesn't matter if you sit on the subwoofer or if you stick it in a corner, there is just as much room interaction. But if you stick the sub near you, you've actually placed the subwoofer in a terrible location often, not always, but often it's a terrible location and simply created more problems than you solved. Now, does that mean you cannot get flat bass there? No, you very well may be able to get very flat bass. In terms of being able to get bass down to 10 hertz, I'm not really sure why sitting on top of the subwoofer or placing it next to you allows you to extend the bass any further. That doesn't really make sense to me. So there may be something I'm missing here. But if I was trying to extend bass down to 10 hertz, and I got to tell you, I don't know that you actually want what you think you want, but maybe you need to try it and find for yourself. Because getting significant output at 10 hertz is very difficult to do no matter what. And you're not going to get any more bass output sitting next to the sub as you will sticking in a corner. You'll actually probably get less bass output. I don't know how big your room is. It doesn't really say here. But assuming your room is a fairly normal sized room and not a big giant room, the amount of loss per distance that you get from the subwoofer is kind of irrelevant. In larger spaces, this becomes a factor and it's important. But I think what most people would find is that if you measured a subwoofer from 2 feet inside of a room with the subwoofer in a corner and then measured at 4 feet and 6 feet and 8 feet, you're not going to see the same kind of SPL drop off. You're actually just going to see a lot of room mode effects mostly. And you're going to find that as you get closer to boundaries, the SPL actually goes up. If you then move that same subwoofer and stick it behind you and did the same test, I think you're going to find the same thing. And so the actual amount of SPL you get maybe more if you stuck it in a corner at those low frequencies than it would be if you sit on top of it. The main reason people like near-field subs is something else. And this has nothing to do with whether you're getting a flat response to 10 hertz. A lot of people like near-field subs because they don't really want to or cannot use bass shakers, tactile transducers. And what they're trying to get is tactile bass. They want to feel the vibrations and the impact. And the subwoofer itself can produce that tactile sensation. In fact, I would argue that done correctly, the subwoofer is a better way to do it than tactile transducers, just because I find tactile transducers to have some issues. But some people love them. And the effect is much stronger from a tactile transducer than the sub. But the sub, I think, sounds more natural. And so when you stick it close to you, because of your physical proximity to it, the sub can excite the couch or the chair much more readily than it could if it was in a corner. Assuming your sub does it say it's in a basement? Yeah, purpose basement. So basements typically are concrete. Trying to shake a concrete basement is really hard. And so sticking subs in the corners doesn't shake a lot. Given that you have a budget, you're saying it's a fairly low budget, the near field subs are not necessarily going to extend your bass to 10 hertz, but they may give you more of that tactile sensation. And so while you may be making compromises in other ways, I think for the same reason why a lot of people love them on the forums, you may love them. It doesn't hurt to try. I mean, if you don't mind moving subs around, give it a shot and see what you think. That's probably the best way to do it. In terms of the deep bass, one thing to keep in mind is that trying to extend a subwoofer's bass down to 10 hertz through manual EQ can be done, can also be dangerous, damage the subwoofer, and cause high distortion. Not a lot of subwoofers can do that. You're going to basically need the highest displacement, highest power subwoofer you can get to do that. And you want 10 hertz, I would not do a ported sub. So you're going to need a sealed subwoofer with high excursion. There's not a ton of companies that make those that are cheap. That's an expensive thing. So you're going to have to look for somebody that makes a good sub for that. If it's pro audio driver based, it may not be great for this either. There's very few pro audio drivers that have enough excursion to really be good at this. And a lot of them, when used in sealed cabinets, have problems. So I mentioned this before, but sealed subwoofers, there's a lot of pressure inside of, the air is being compressed. And port actually has an air mass in it that pushes back on the air in the enclosure. So ported subs can have quite a bit of air pressure too. But at certain frequencies, that air pressure does actually go in and out with the sub and doesn't get as high. And so you don't tend to see this problem, but there's a sort of, I'm going to call it breathing problem. I don't know what else to call it, where air pushes through the cone and the surround. So on a typical high excursion, high mass subwoofer, you've got a foam or a rubber surround that is completely air and watertight. You've got a cone that's often made of a stiffer, heavier material. It's air and watertight. And you've got a center cap that's typically made of air and watertight materials, and they're designed for sealed use, so they do not leak air. With pro audio drivers, which are actually designed for ported enclosures, not sealed enclosures, they do have doping on the center dust cap part, and they do have doping on the surround, but it's not enough, intentionally actually, to completely stop any air from passing through. So once you stick it into a sealed enclosure and try to get, even, for the ones that have 20 millimeters of X-Max, when you try to get 20 millimeters of excursion out of that driver, you end up getting some distortion caused by air passing through the surround and the dust cap. And that's a bad thing. So you're going to have to be careful on a low budget getting the right subwoofer for this job. I'd be looking at like 18-inch, possibly bigger drivers. I'd be looking at high X-Max, and I'd be looking at sealed if you really want bass down to 10 hertz. Beyond that, good luck. Like I said, play around with it, experiment, see what you can get. And if the extension is more important than the physicality of the bass, the feeling it, you may find corner placement actually being more likely to give you that extension. All right, well, I hope this was helpful. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks, everybody. Keep on watching. I got more videos coming. People ask me these kinds of questions a lot. I try to address them best I can. The near field sub thing, the big trend on the forums. I think that those who originally developed it understood what it was. And then I think from there, it went a little bit clog wild and people started to say things that were not true. And so now we've kind of got to go back and talk about that. Make sure that people understand how this all works. Subwoofers will interact with the room no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try to prevent it, unless you're using very, very good active techniques like waveforming and art. So, got more videos coming again. Thank you. Like these videos. I appreciate when you do that. Subscribe to my channel. I appreciate when you do that. It helps things out. I get paid a little bit more money that way. And gets these videos out to a larger audience, which is always nice. And keep on asking questions. This is really good. Thanks, everybody.